All right, so some parents, they feel like they give up their sense of personal sovereignty while raising their kids. In fact, they put their own wants and their needs on the back burner and really focus on maintaining the status quo at home.
It's just very common, and it's a life phase that one of our next guests calls camel mode. According to her, it can last anywhere from months to years. Joining us now is columnist for New York Magazine, Catherine Jeser-Morton, and psychotherapist Dr. Robi Ludwig. Great to have both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Catherine, let me start with you. You say you were actually stuck in this camel mode life phase until your kids were around 9 and 12. So first, why do you call it camel mode, and what did it look like for you?
Well, I called it camel mode because I felt like it was a time period where I basically was just surviving without water, in the sense that I wasn't thinking about what I needed as much as I was thinking about the needs of my family. And it wasn't that I was doing that because I felt like that's what I needed to do. It just became a habit. It was like it was something that I fell into without realizing it, I think. And I do think that for me, it lasted so long because COVID just kind of extended it. I think I was just coming out of it, and then COVID happened, and then I kind of went back into it for an extra, 3 years.
Wow.
It's interesting. One of the things that you wrote about was basically this notion that, fun changed. The idea and your definition of fun changed. So now suddenly going to bed at 8, like, that's fun. Now, I have to say I'm a new parent. I can sort of identify. If I can, like, get in and watch my little telenovelas at 8 p.m., I am living my absolute best life. So in some sense, Dr. Ludwig, are we being too hard on ourselves? Are there certain phases of life where this is sort of inevitable?
Yeah, that's such a great question, because in a way it's survival, right? New parents, it doesn't come with a manual. We want to do a good job and we have to focus. But it's always best if we can understand that we're not just one role. We play many roles in our lives, and when we can realize that, we can have a more balanced type of experience.
Catherine, you talk about camel mode not being anybody's fault. There's no one to blame for this. But how is it different from other psychological states, like postpartum depression, for example?
Well, I think it's really different than postpartum in that, I think you can be in it without it being a real problem for you for a long time. And I think one of the ways that it becomes a problem is the duration. Like, when I was a new parent, I can totally remember that feeling of, 8 p.m., awesome. But, years go by, and if you're still living the same way without even asking yourself, like, is this what I want to be doing?
Is this where I want to be at 8 p.m.? Don't worry about where your kids are at 10 p.m. Where are you at 8 p.m., right?
Exactly.
Dr. Ludwig, when and how, Catherine was talking about, like, the duration of this. When and how should you consider yanking yourself out of this?
Yeah, I think you need to ask yourself, what brings you joy? What are you interested in? What were you interested in before you became a parent? So you always want to, again, appeal to your intellectual life, appeal to your dreams, focus on your partner, continue to date and socialize. This is all very important in terms of having a balanced life and also being a good role model for your child.
I love how Catherine really put a name to it, and we can kind of all relate. I can certainly relate to this idea of camel mode. Dr. Ludwig, let me give this to you. How can you, if you're a new parent or someone who's kind of becoming aware of this, like, wait a minute, I might be in this, how do you kind of preemptively take yourself out, or what are things you can do to prevent it?
There was a study once that found the happiest mothers work part-time because they had that dual identity going on simultaneously. So it's very important to try to remember to socialize with friends, even if it's a mom group, because you need people and they need you. This is true for partners and friends. To go to lectures, just ask yourself, what drives me? And to keep that alive. And if you find that you're hiding behind motherhood, you really need to be almost confront yourself and say, I know this is not my only role. What else defines who I am?
And also recognizing when people are reaching out, right? They are reaching out. I know I've reached out to people for connectivity and really value the people who've responded, because, it's hard to do. You're trying to figure it out together. All right.
And give yourself a break,
That's right.
trial and error.
For New York Magazine.